as I said, the motive of this session is like building an application with Angular. So today, what we are going to see is like what are the basic setup we need to have in the Angular, and what are the basic components we are having in the Angular, and we can build a small application in the runtime, like kind of a to-do application, like you are giving some input and it will be displayed in the screen, and you can remove that option, those kind of things. So our first slide is like what is Angular. So basically, like we use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for building our application. So what is this Angular? Is this entire programming things, or like what this is actually? It's like a framework, like using this HTML, CSS, and JavaScript or TypeScript, we combine together building an application. So it's like a framework. It will provide a lot of predefined syntaxes and methodologies to build our web application. So you might have next question is like, why Angular? So we already have a framework like React or something, like we have Angular, we have jQuery kind of libraries. So why we need Angular? For jQuery, we will have in session like what is the difference between Angular and jQuery, and why we are picking the Angular. So we can do similar operations, like if you want to create an application like a to-do application or any other complex application, we can even done with the JavaScript, plain JavaScript, or even the jQuery. Why we need the Angular? The main part is like when the application becomes complex in terms of requirement, like you are having lots of requirements in your application, like do this part, do that part, this needs these kind of business logic. It's very hard to maintain the code. But in Angular, it will have like a lot of design patterns and the methodologies to split up the front end code and the methodologies and the JavaScript code and the business logic parts. So it will be like easy to maintain the code. Next one is like when we create a large complex application using jQuery, it becomes hard to test. To make the life easier, like these frameworks come up with like lots of compatibility to test the application, as well as like maintaining the application. For example, 10 developers created an application, and over a period of time, 10 developers would become 15 or 20. So when the time everyone hitting the same part of application and doing the changes, it will be very hard to maintain, and creating the features or adding the new functionalities will take a lot of time if the code is like a very very narrow, and everyone hitting the same part of code. So that's how Angular comes into the picture. So what is the benefit of Angular? It is a component-based framework which gives a clean structure of our application. Means every thing you are seeing in Angular is like a component. For example, if you have a website, the left side bar will be a component and the top bar will be a component. I will show you in the examples. It is a declarative template which includes lots of reusable code. For example, if I have a top bar, usually what we will have in top bar is menu, help kind of menus, and different edit kind of functionalities. So that can be a reusable. So if I have in one page, I can use it in the another page. I don't have to duplicate the code and doing the same thing again and again. Once I create it, I can use it as a reusable code across my application. So when we write our code in either JavaScript or TypeScript, it will convert it into TypeScript because after Angular version 2, everything was TypeScript. So Angular framework itself developed using TypeScript, so we can make sure like it is very popular and powerful in a developer world. Like Microsoft is using the TypeScript in many of their projects. Dependency injection, it loads only the dependent objects at the runtime or like during the instance of object. So we don't have to like inject all the dependents at the start itself. We can load whenever it is needed. So what is the architecture of Angular? So basically, Angular has two sections, basically front end and back end. So in the front end, we will be having this UI, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript or TypeScript. So it contains all the HTML templates or the graphical representation or GIFs or the application presentation logic. Application presentation logic means like what are the things doing in the front end, like displaying a button, showing some icons, or showing some operations when the button is clicked. Those kind of things are front end logics. Backend architecture is like a business logic or data from databases or APIs. In Angular, we are not going to store any data in the client side because once the session or cookies cleared, everything will be deleted. We will use local storage or cookies in client side to store temporary data. Like this data is like a temporary data. It will not deal with actual data. So business logic or data are stored in a database or APIs. So Angular is purely like a front-end framework which will be doing picking the data from the database via APIs or web services and providing the informations. So this will be the things we are talk about. Frontend will have a presentation logic, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, those kind of things. Backend will have purely have APIs and business logic database. So setting up the environment. So if you want to develop something in the Angular, we need to do these kind of installations at first. First is we need to go with the Node.js installation. So when you install Node.js, the npm will get installed automatically. So this nodejs.org/download will help you to provide the downloadables. So when you go to this website, you will have a LTS thing. So you can choose a 32-bit or 64-bit based on your machine configuration and install it. After that, you can check whether it is installed or not using this node-v. What it will do is, let me show you. So right now I have a node version of version 12.18.1 and npm version 6.14.5. So what node will provide is like it will provide various things for us to run our application, like test our application. Those kind of things will be present in the node and the npm. Next one is important. What is install your Angular CLI. CLI is like a tool which will help us to do a lot of operations within the Angular, like creating the packages, installing the packages, and like generating the default codes. Like if I want to create a component, I can run some command to come up with some boilerplate code. So which will provide like a minimal code, which will be runnable and without any much complex codes. So when you do npm install -g at angular/cli, that tool will be installed. So this is the hierarchy of this installing the part. First, you need to download the Node.js package and install that. After that, you need to verify just to make sure like it is verified, like it has been installed in your machine. Next thing is you need to install your Angular CLI package. After that, you can check that version also. So next thing is like creating a new application. New Angular application. So you have created, you have downloaded Node.js and you have installed Angular CLI. Now this is the first part you are going to enter into your Angular code. So this part will be clear, right? So if anyone have doubts, you can drop a message in the chat box. I will stop and clarify your things and we can continue. Right now, I will consider it as everyone was clear. I will just go ahead and create a new project, Angular project with this command. So the command will be ng space new space project name. This is a user defined name. My first project is can be anything, startup project, those kind of things. So ng space new space is a template. So this should be the same. Ng is actually the short form of Angular. So Angular CLI will have lots of Angular CLI will have lots of commands. We will see one by one. So before that, I will go to my folder. So I will create a new folder for today. So it is a demo. I'm going to open that particular folder in the command prompt. So as I said earlier, we are going to create a new project. It's ng space new, which means Angular new space. We can mention it as a project called Todo Application. So here, don't use numbers or those kind of things. So like you declare your project name with hyphens, basically. Like that is the schematical representation Angular has been following for their projects. So when we click ng space new space to do application, it will ask us few questions like, do you want to add Angular routing, the default routing? You can just say yes. And what type of style sheet you want to use? Default will be CSS and SCSS. So it's like a type of CSS file you are going to use within your project. You can choose based on your use. I will choose a SCSS. So once we click that, it will create this kind of boilerplate code to us. like it will have lots of default files. It will be having to help us to create our first application, that runnable application, the kind of hello world application in any C program or Java program or any other programs. So this is like a Angular's hello world kind of program. Basically what they will do is like they will provide. Okay, these are the available commands, like adding your external library, analytics, build, deploy those kind of informations. Like this is like a kind of advanced commands available in the Angular CLI. So we can just go back to our command prompt and see whether the particular packages are installed. So what it actually do is like it will have lots of dependencies when we create Angular packages. It will have its own kind of dependencies. We can see what are the packages getting installed. So we will traverse to the folder we have created and open VS Code tool here. So VS Code is like again a Microsoft tool which has been popular these days for front-end development. Let me zoom the UI. So these are the file structure. You could be able to see the right-hand side of our application, right? Todo Application. This is the folder name we have provided, and these are the subfolders and the files created. So to get started, I'll open packages.json. So let me get this in a full screen. So to understand this application, we need to like a package.json is the file which will represent what are these actual packages in the node applications basically. So it will have the package name as Todo Application, and these are the dependencies basically. The npm installed in our things. It will have by default. It will have Angular animation, Angular common, Angular compiler, core, forms, platform process, those kind of things. You don't need to worry about much thing when you are getting started with the Angular. When we go to beginner stage to intermediate stage, you will get familiar with this automatically. So basically we need to know about a few commands basically. So first one is start ng-serve. What it will do is like it will serve our application, like running our application basically. Next one is ng-build. It is for like preparing the packages which can be deployed in any other machines. So we don't need to do that now. Next one is ng-test. It will be like testing our unit testers available within this code. So instead of talking, let's go to create terminal, new terminal. What it will do is like it will create a command prompt within the command editor itself, like the VS Code itself. I'm going to type ng space serve. So the command is ng Angular. So ng space serve. What it will do is like it will compile the code we basically generated and serve it to us. Like we can go to browser and see how this particular application will looks like. So we can see that output first, and we can go back to the files we have here, and I will explain what are the basic things we need to know and what are the files structure we are currently having in our boilerplate code of Angular. So right now it's the first time we are running, so we're just combining the various packages and the files we have provided, and it will show a URL for us so that we can browse it and see the output. I close this command prompt because we don't need it right now. So it just started compiling. So whatever we do in the TypeScript or everything, a browser basically understand JavaScript only. So the compiler will convert all the codes, or like typecasting or like transpiling all those codes into JavaScript basically. So at the end of the day, it is a JavaScript in the browser. So our Angular application is live now, and it available in the URL localhost :4200. You can go to this browser and type localhost :4200. I already typed it. So we'll just click enter. So you can see a nice application here, like from the boilerplate of code, nice animations. And when we click, you can see this particular text will get changed. So this kind of boilerplate code has been available from the Angular this thing, like the default code. So this is for like someone who really want to see how the Angular will work. They can see using this. So what we have to do is like So basically what we did is like we just created a Angular application using ng ng space new space some name, and we clicked we run the application using ng space serve. So then we got this application. So now go back to our code, and we can see what are the various things available in this code. After that we can create a to-do application in the live session. So we already seen like a package.json will have what are the various packages we have been using in the dependencies as the dependencies. So we can go to the readme file. So readme file is nothing but basic information about the application. It is like a documentation we are creating for ourselves, so we don't need to worry about much those things. TS configuration is like a TypeScript we will be using. So just go with the default Angular things for basic applications. What it will do is like it will configure the TypeScript how it will be used in the application. Next one is Angular.json. So this particular file, what it will do is like it will configure the commands we are actually using, like which file needs to be served as an index. Basically, index.html will be the root file for a browser to look for, and what is the TypeScript file. So there will be much difference between the JavaScript and TypeScript. TypeScript is basically having the types-based kind of informations in the file. So TypeScript will be easy to learn compared to JavaScript actually. So you can even type your JavaScript code itself in the TypeScript files. So it would be still a valid thing. So some part it will show like warnings, like these kind of things needs to be improved, or those kind of link kind of information. So again, this is like a configuration file basically. Angular.json is like from which folder it need to take all the informations, and what are the style sheets. So this will be like basically set up by the Angular itself. So this is the main part actually. Let's go to the src folder. SRC folder is nothing but a source folder, and it will be having basically 3 folders inside that: app folder, asset folder, and environment. Environment is like which environment, like when you are going to create an enterprise application, you will be having multiple environment. Like a developer will have some environment, and next guy testing team will have a different environment. So we can provide those kind of different informations here. Like for example, if you want to show some icon in a developer environment, and you want to a different icon or different configuration, we can provide those kind of information in this folder. Next one is asset folder. Asset folder is nothing but like if you have lots of images files or GIF files or reusable kind of static files, we can say. So those will be comes under asset folder. So the main part is like a app folder here. So app folder will have basically 3 things. So ignore this spec.ts because it is like a testing folder. Test related files will be present here. So you will be having 3 things here: app.component.html, app.component.scss, app.component.ts. So basically Angular will be having these naming conventions very tightly. If you want to create a new component, you should have a similar name. If you want to create a new component like top bar, so we have to name it as top bar.component.html and top bar component.scss, those kind of things. Basically this ts file will be the TypeScript file. It will provide the basic informations like what is the root of the HTML file, and what is the root of the SCSS file. So basically TypeScript will connect the HTML file and the style sheet basically. So right now it doesn't have much information, like just imported basic files and created a component. So as I say component, so you can create component in different ways. So you can create this blue part as a component and create it once and use it multiple times in your application. And you can create these particular image and resources things as a component, and you can reuse it. So that's the main power of Angular, like reusing the components across the application and based on the needs. So right now we have only one variable called a title, and title name is provided as to-do application, to-do-application. You can see that to-do application is presented here in the blue part. So we can just jump into the HTML part now. So basically it is a default code. So they have provided lots of code here. What we'll do is like we'll just cut this part and put it in a CSS file so that the code will looks a little bit cleaner for us to explore. I'll just delete these commands under the default things. Okay, what the TypeScript will do is like it will go to this HTML and took this CSS and bind it together and provide as a component. So when they hit a selector like app-root, what it will do is like it will take the TypeScript and merge those HTML and CSS together and provide as a component. So we can see this title is used in this app.component.html with this syntax. Open braces 2 times and the variable name and close braces 2 times. So basically the main power of Angular is like in the JavaScript or any other things, we need to set the values in the UI, like set the get the ID of a particular HTML or like get the class name of HTML and bind the values. It is like in the Angular, it has different communications, like a one-way communication or two-way communication. When we put this kind of braces, what it will do is like it will automatically look for the values in the TypeScript file and bind the values automatically in the backend. So if we change this as a different variable, it will show error for me. So it will say is not defined because it will look for title hyphen tell in the TypeScript, and it will say like in the programming time itself, it will say like this variable is not available in that side. So it will definitely show error like that. So if I change this particular to-do application is equal to to-do students and save this, it will quickly, you can see the changes. Before switching the window itself, it just reflected the information here. So this is the power of like Angular, like it will very fast actually. So what, okay, this is the basic information, like how we need to bind the variables. So if we want to bind another variable like section, so you just use a different name, like a section title. So I'll copy this and put it as like here. You can see like the section name is providing in autocomplete as a property. So if I save this, it will compile the application and show it here basically. So I need to save this file also. So you can see like a section title what is reflected here. So these are all the basic things like setting up the environment and creating a new variables and setting up a two-way communication between the things. What we can do now is like we can delete these parts, like we don't need these kind of information. So we can just delete this and put our to-do application code here. Like basically a to-do application will be like a checklist kind of things, or like informations we need to note in the day-to-day life, and like having some list basically. So we can create a list now. So what I will do is like I will just remove this part, and under this we have basically these next steps. We don't need it. We'll just delete it. You can see there's a lot of boilerplate code here. I'll just delete it, and even I can delete these as well. Even this footer also we don't need. We can delete that footer as well. So right now what we will be having is like we will have this top bar, and we can have this particular part, and we can create our sample codes here. I'll just delete this as well. Like, so I'll just save how it will looks like in the UI. So right now we just deleted everything. It's just having this heading. We'll just rename it as a to-do application. I'm going to create a new div as code. Okay. So next thing I'm going to create is like when we build application, we need to think about how it should look like. So basically a to-do application need a text box and an add button. to get the values, and when the user clicks add button, it should capture the value and put it in the list we have. So first I'm going to create a text box. So I just created a text box here. Next thing, I'm going to create a button and provide the text as add. Okay, we are going to see the output here. So okay, we have a text box. You can type something and click add. So when you click add, it won't do anything because we didn't write anything so far. What we are going to do is like we can go back and create a code to get the value. Actually, it should capture this value and add it to somewhere. So for that, what I'm going to do is like it's just HTML. We need to get that part in TypeScript. Okay. So I'm going to create a variable called to do list. So it is going to be act as a list basically. So I'm going to put a box here so that it will have as a, like a items in the array. So this is basically to do list, and I'm going to have a variable here like a to do item. Next thing, so it's going to present as empty. The to do item will be present as a variable in this text box. So it should capture the value and provide to us. So next, a thing like a box of banana. The name is interesting. Like when you put this box and bracket inside that, this is a new syntax. Like one of the syntax available in Angular, like for a two-way communication. It's the name is a box of banana. So they named it as like some weird name, like why this box of banana, like it is surrounded by something. So when you type ng model, it should present like this box bracket, and inside that there will be an open bracket and the ng model equal to binding. Binding is basically a user defined variable name. So when you mention ng model equal to double colon, and we can have this to do item variable as our variable name is our two-way communication variable. So when you type something here, it will be stored inside this to do item actually. So when it is saved in the HTML, you can access that in TypeScript as well. So right now it's showing an error because we need to import some files. It's like importing some system files in like other other programming languages. We need to import Angular /forms. So it's like it will have a default codes that needs to be run whenever hit ng model, and we need to import forms module here. So it will be happen in the app.module.ts file. It will basically serve as a library kind of like a different library importing place. So I'm importing forms module in the import module as well. Now you can see like the error was showing a few seconds back, and now it is not showing. So we basically added needed files here. So we have a text box here now, and we have add button here. Now we can able to capture the value, but how we can save the value? So for that we are going to create some add module here. We can save it say it as add item. Basically it's a function. I'm going to have, what it will do is the important part here is like I created a list here, to-do list. All the items should be present inside, will be pushed into that. To access that variable, we need to mention like this dot, because in this component we need to mention this dot to do list dot push. So basically, you know, the array, right, like a push pop kind of thing. So I'm going to use that push. And again, which thing we need to add? So it is to do item. So what it will do is like when I say this dot to do item, it will look for the current value available in that variable, and it will push it to the to do list. So basically it will be able to list. When I say new item like a mouse or a printer, it will add informations like mouse, and when I push again, it will have some other values like printer, it will do this kind of push operation here. So I just added. So we have a function called add item here. We need to do that combination here at the add button. So when you click add button, we need to trigger that function, right? For that, we have this input kind of thing. So you need to put open bracket and bind the click event. So this is like a Angular kind of a thing. You need to bind the click event. Whenever the add button is clicked, this particular function needs to be run. So we are going to provide add item here. So when I click add, it will trigger add function and it will get the values and save it. Okay. So I'm going to save it and see. We'll say hello and add. So now everyone will be wondering like, okay, you provided the value in text box and you click add, it is added, but how we can see it? So that's the next part actually. We are going to create another div here and display the values basically. Okay. So I'm just ignore this syntax as just like displaying the things in nice UI. I'm just putting these things and all. So you might already know like a for loop. So we are going to do that for loop here in the runtime. So I'm going to type ng for the syntax. The syntax will be like this: star ng for equal to let item equal of list. So it will be like the list is the main variable, and it will be like usually what you will do in the for loop is like x equal to 0 of x less than 5 or something, x plus plus, those kind of things. Here this is like a syntax of the for loop. So you can check the Angular docs for this. Basically it's just a self-explanatory. So you can go to angular.component.ts and get this array name and put it here. Okay. So and every on every loop it will have the current value in the item. Okay. So what I'm going to do is like I'm create another div here. And again, I'm going to display some values later. So we need to put this double bracket and put item here actually. So it will have current value of the loop and will display the information. So we will just save it and see in the UI. So just display it. Click mouse add. You can see like it created another code and it's showing the information. Next one is I'm going to type it as print. It created another code. So basically we are adding listers here. Okay. So we have option to add. How about removing this item basically? So let's go back to our code here. We can create a delete button next to our item. So I will type another, I will create another button basically. We can go with the button model. We can name it as delete. So similar to add item, we need a delete item now. Okay. So to remove this particular item from this UI. So I'm going to type delete item. Now opposite to push, it will be a pop, right? So instead of pop, I'm just going to put this dot to do list dot splice. What splice will do is like a splice is like in the array basically. So we need to mention the index, like you can see the splice start of the number. So from where it should delete the array and how many items it should remove. So basically we will provide some index here and we can remove only one item. So if I want to delete this first item, the index should be 0 and delete only one item, please. Like that will be splicing. So if I want to delete the second item, the array start with 0, right? So 0, 1, splice the first item and only one, remove only one item, those kind of things. So we have this splice code and index here. So we need to send this index, right? So from where we need to get the index. Let's go back to our Angular HTML code. In the for loop, we have mentioned like incremental variables and display the informations. We need to declare index here. Basically, what it will do is like the element number, actually the array number. So it will have this, and we are going to call the particular function, remove function here, equal to remove item, and we are going to pass the value index here. So we named it as a delete item. We can replace it with the same name. So we have okay, now let's get back to our UI. So we have a text box to get the values, and we have add button to add the values. Now we just created a delete button. Let's see whether it works or not. So we type the same name, mouse. Yeah, we can see the button here, right? Delete. Let's create some other values like keyboard. So just to keep it UI a little bit more, I'm just adding another value. So when we click keyboard, it should delete it, right? Let's see whether it deletes or not. I'm just clicking delete. When we click delete, what will happen? So it will check the button click event. It will check button event, and it will send the index. So when I click delete, it will say index is 0, 1, and it will send the index here. So delete item 1 in the array. First item, first index item in the array. So it will go to this particular function, and we'll look into the to-do list, and we'll like cut out that part. So let's click it and see. Yeah, just delete it, right? So you can see like within a matter of 10 to 15 minutes, we created an application which can get the input from the user and add it to some list and delete it from list. So we can click delete again. So it just created. So to prettify this application, we are going to add something here. Like instead of showing side by side, we can have, we are going to like prettify this application so that this card will be displayed one by one. It just present in the SCSS basically. You don't have to worry about this UI and all, because it's just a sample UI. You can create it based on your needs. Instead of showing side by side, I'm just making it like displaying in the one by one. So just refreshed. I'm going to type the same value again, mouse. Now you can see there is a space between this text and delete button, and print. Okay, it's just displaying one by one. So now it looks like a native kind of a to-do application. So if you want to remove, delete this particular item, it's working. So let's conclude this session. Like what are the things, various things we need, we seen in today to-do application. First thing is like we created a list, to-do list. We named it as to-do list, and we created a variable as a to-do item. Needs to be captured the values which has been typed in the input box, and we created two functions basically. First one is add item, which is pushing the values into the array. Next one is delete item, which is splicing, basically like removes the elements from an array, and if necessary inserts new elements in the place. So it's like we can consider it like removing the thing. So we created a list and added the item and deleted the item. In the HTML side, we learned a few things. First one is two-way communication here. Box of banana syntax using the ng model keyword. So when you put ng model keyword equal to the item, it just captures the value in the UI and sending to the TypeScript at the same time. Next thing is like binding the function. So when we put brackets click, so it's just binding the click event of the HTML to some function in the TypeScript. Third thing we have seen here is like ng for loop, Angular for loop. So this for loop works like to-do list is actually a array. It just traversed from one element to next element, like looping between the for like a to-do list and displaying the items here. So basically fourth item is like displaying the values. If you want to display a value, you should use this syntax, basically like open double bracket and put the variable name and close it with these things. So this is the very basic things you can try out in your things, and you can share the your feedbacks or like doubts